Styled by Science CEOs is hosted by me, Megan Martis.
And me, Ayo Egby. We are young CEOs and founders of ventures in the clothing industry. I am the founder of Hangyo, a premium clothing care company.
And I'm the founder of Clovo, a natural undergarment company. With our shared backgrounds in science and engineering, we take a unique lens to talk about sustainability, representation, and innovation.
To do this, we bring on incredible changemakers in the clothing industry to grow awareness and positive change.
Today, our changemaker is Imani Rickerby, the co-founder and COO of Aurora Tights. Imani has a bachelor's degree in public health sciences from University of Maryland College Park, where she was on the figure skating team, and a master's in health sciences administration at the University of Michigan, where she placed second in the innovation track of the Michigan Business Competition. Today, Imani will be talking about why representation matters in the clothing industry. So welcome, Imani. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, Ayo, if you didn't know, Imani and I actually met at the University of Michigan, and we were in the same business competition in different tracks, and there was 2 tights brands. So that was like pretty crazy to have.
Like super strange that no one connected us, right?
Wow, what are the odds of that? That's cool. Yeah, Imani, thank you so much for being here. We're super excited to get into our conversation with you. To start, tell us a little bit more about your passions and your startup story.
Yeah, sure. My passions. So I started ice skating when I was 5. I grew up as a synchronized ice skater. So that's imagine like a dance team on ice. So we have anywhere from like 10 to 20 girls skating the same program for anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes. But I did that all throughout my career. I think the peak of my skating career was being Team USA in high school. And then I also competed in college, and that's where I met one of my co-founders, Jasmine. But before I went to college, unfortunately, I was not allowed to wear ice skating tights or like dress mesh that matched my skin tone. It was just not allowed. So, I mean, you can imagine like you spend a whole season, like a whole year dedicated towards this program. And you're about to step on the ice, you know, you're doing your makeup and you still don't feel like you fit in, even though you did everything that you could to be a part of this team. And as you could also guess that I was the only Black skater on my team. So it was very isolating. But the reason why I stuck with it was because there were so many other Black skaters that were behind me that I knew that if I could show like, hey, like you could look like me and make junior, senior level. I'll just pave the way for other skaters like me to get there. So yeah, so then I went to University of Maryland. That's where I met my co-founder, Jasmine Sneed, and we both skated the same team together. We actually ended up coaching a team. And it was so diverse. Like that's one thing about like Maryland, like it is amazing how diverse their ice skating community was compared to where I was in New Jersey. And our skaters were still wearing tights that didn't match their skin tone. So we decided to be the change. And that's how we grabbed onto our third co-founder, Sydney Parker, who actually danced competitively at University of Maryland. And she has a very beautiful, darker skin complexion. And she as well was not allowed to wear tights that match her skin tone. And ever since then, 2018, we've been moving and hustling.
Wow, that's so amazing. I love how you really took that mindset of like, how can I pave the way for the future people that would come behind you? I think that's just like so inspiring. And I'm curious, what is the reason why you can't wear colored tights? Like, what is there, like, what's the purpose behind it? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, ice skating, I mean, as you can imagine, is it's predominantly white sport. Most of like the judges are, I mean, all the judges are white. I think a good mix between male or female, but mostly white. And at first, I think my coach didn't think it was possible, but then when it was possible, I don't think they wanted me to stand out any more than I do. Which is a shame. And I think that now, being that our tights are available, also moving to a path where dresses will be available in our shades as well, like the mesh, it actually looks better. So jokes on them.
Yeah, I saw it on your website and I was like, oh my gosh, this is genius and so beautiful. Like, I never even thought about that. It's always been just one shade. But
Mhm.
how cool like is it to have it you're like close to your shade? That's so neat. I'm proud.
No, for like literally like the first when we finally got like our product in our hand, like in my I wear amber, and like not to get like weird or sentimental, but I almost started crying because it's like, wow, like I feel like my skating career would have been so different if I
Mm.
was. And it's like something so small. It's like, okay, a pair of tights, who cares? But like this pair of tights meant that like I could have actually done my passion in my own skin, you know?
Mm. Mm. I'm
Yeah.
getting chills.
I know. It's also like your baby product. I feel like you just like really fall in love with it. And I do think it's like really innovative what you've done as well. So I've never seen that before, like really where you've just really navigated this path and have really brought some great representation to the ice skating world. And kind of on the theme of representation, what would you say representation means to you in the fashion world?
It's huge. It's everything. Even as like a consumer, like let's say like let's get out of the hosiery market and just thinking about like, I'm just shopping on, let's say Pretty Little Thing, and I'm able to see this dress that I want to purchase in like different model sizes. It's like, okay, now I can see what I actually would look like wearing this. Now I'm going to wear it. So I think that it's just the consumer experience is with more representation within fashion is completely different, and it's better. I think it's for the better. I also think representation in the fashion world um, also invites people like us to break into it. Um, like if just seeing that we started our companies, I bet there's other people out there. It's like, hey, like if they could do it, we could do it too. And imagine like what other products will come along the way that, we couldn't even think of, but because we're already out there, and we're doing things like winning pitch competitions and doing press releases, it gets other people's minds going.
Wow. Yeah, and it makes me think about how many people are maybe unintentionally or intentionally like their voices aren't heard, even in this, like you mentioned, like the smallest thing. But honestly, the smallest things can turn out to be the big things over time. And so just seeing that something was made for you kind of makes you feel like, okay, I'm cared about. Okay, like I can actually see myself in this. And I think that's huge that you're tapping into that market in a way that hasn't been done before. So I'm super curious to learn about your startup journey. What has been the most fun part about building your company?
Honestly, it would have, this is so sappy, but my co-founders. So Jasmine and Sydney and we are actually line sisters, sorority sisters. We're all sorors of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And then like we've also, well, Jazz was my roommate. Now I'm Sydney's roommate. I've coached with Jasmine, and I mean, at the end of the day, we're just best friends, sisters at that. So just being able to like go from this little idea that we had to now working full time, it's literally out of this world. And like, I think the best way to describe our dynamic is just like our founders calls. So of course we have those, we have them scheduled for like twice a week, but because we're best friends, we're literally talking all the time. And it could go from like, hey, what are you making for dinner? Like, okay, there's an investment call next weekend. Like, who's doing the pitch deck? Let's go. To like switching back, like, hey, have you watched Love Island? Like, it goes so back and forth. And like, it's just been so much fun. Like, it's literally like even doing pitch competitions with them to like making swatches. It's been fun.
Wow, wow. That's so special to have that kind of relationship of like your passion, but also just like that relationship piece to like fuse those. Um, and so On the other side of things, what have you found to be like the challenges and the hard things that you have had to tackle and navigate? And can you talk a little bit more about how you tackle those, maybe on the mindset, maybe in the solution, kind of like all of it? Definitely let us know.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest issues that we've had was um, trying to convince white male investors that our product is important. That's something that we like. I'm talking about like first couple of months. When we just created our name, that was something that was like a smack in the face. And it's like at first, like it was kind of like heart shattering because it's like, hey, like I've been through this all my life, and you're going to say there's no market for it, there's no purpose for it, this is not going to grow. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, and it was extremely frustrating. But the way that we came with the solution is, of course, we had to talk to other white men and ask, like, hey, why don't you understand this? And what the biggest solution was, honestly, a visualization of the need. So usually what we do with pitch competitions or just our pitch deck, or just anything in general, we'll show someone like either me or like one of my co-founders wearing a wrong pair of tights and being like, hey, there's something wrong here. And then showing us wearing the correct pair of tights. And then they're like, oh, we see the difference. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
so it's a very like, in the beginning, I was like, I just don't understand why you don't understand it. But you know, my story is not everyone's story. So I'm just happy we've seemed to gotten a rhythm of how to explain it to a broader audience.
Yeah, it's what you're saying right now is totally relatable, and I've had a very similar experience, just like being a woman as well. Like in talking about tights, men have never worn them, they don't understand the problems that come with them, and they're always like, "Can you put it in terms that we would understand?" So I have to be like, "Itchy as a wool sweater." So I like forgot to wear a belt with your pants. It's like seriously, it's not that hard to understand.
I feel that too. I have a hair product, but when I go to pitch competitions, same thing. I think when I'm talking about the problem, the pain points, it's not resonating as much because they usually don't have that issue. Like
Mhm.
usually, like most of the women that have that issue. And it's only when I start talking about the market, like how big the market, that's when it becomes interesting. And my traction, that's when it becomes interesting. But that's really cool, Imani, how you were able to bridge the gap of visually showing, okay, this is what it looks like without Aurora Tights. It sucks. And this is what it looks like with Aurora Tights. You're winning. So that's really smart.
Yeah, and I definitely think what you said is just like figuring out a way, because like we know this is a problem, and just figuring out a solution to get to where you want to go is just honestly the only thing you can do right now. So it's great though that you are talking about it and you're not just letting it block your path. You're really just going over that obstacle. So it's really incredible. And I definitely think that you guys have a great brand and are making some great progress in terms of representation in the clothing world, especially the ice skating world. So I'm curious to know about what your future vision of Aurora Tights, and if you're going to be looking into doing some future products as well.
Yeah, no, we are always booked and busy, as you two probably know. It like being a part working for a startup, it just never stops, does it? Right?
Love it.
Yeah. I literally was like making a swatch right before I got on this call. So, um, but yeah, things that we're entering into. I think some of the exciting stuff. Oh, there's so many. We're dropping this summer shimmery tights, so band dancer tights. So, those are usually worn by band dancers, which are usually at HBCU, so historically Black colleges and universities. So think of Bachelor. And right now, there's no other shade on the market other than tan. So we're excited to do that. We're also looking to increase our shades. So for one lighter shade than our fairest complexion, and then an in-between shade between our second and third deepest. So we're super excited about that. And then And another super cool thing that I'm super excited for when it gets on the books is we're having a partnership with Clovo. So we'll be entering to the sustainability market through the ice skating and dance world. And it's honestly gonna shake the world up, because I know ice skaters and dancers have never experienced anything like that. But also we're doing something good for the planet. So it's like the best of both worlds. And also we got to work with another great company, women run, like Clovo. So yeah, we have a lot coming.
Wow. And okay, so you guys have an amazing vision, but I'm super curious, like just reeling it back, how have you been able to scale your business? Like, can you walk us through like maybe the year that you started and like the kind of the steps, the significant steps you've taken to build Aurora Tights?
Yeah, no, honestly, the help that we've gotten from both University of Maryland and University of Michigan have been monumental. I think a lot of universities are realizing that they need to have an entrepreneurship clinic, and University of Maryland has a phenomenal one. And not only does it come with funding, but also just the resources, the mentorship has really helped us get to where we are today. I mean, as well as pitch competitions. Yeah, we would not have even had our MVP if it wasn't for the pitch competition that we won at UMD. And then what also helped us scaling, other than the help with the universities that we've done, I mean, the pitch competitions and the entrepreneurship clinics that we've been a part of have been our internship program. So this is something that we started during the pandemic, with the idea that people are losing their jobs. I almost lost my internship at the time when I was in grad school. And so we thought, why don't we just give an opportunity for high school and college students to work with a startup? That's probably something that they wouldn't be able to now that everything's remote. And honestly, the talent that we've been able to work with last summer, this past year, and now this summer, out of this world. Like literally, like it's crazy. It's crazy how much can be done now compared to when it was just us three, to now we have like 10 interns, so what, 13 of us? Like it's crazy. So yeah, so it's been a combination of just great talent out there, college students and high school students working hard, and then also tapping into our networks at our schools.
Wow. Well, I can attest to having interns is a game changer. Just having those extra hands and minds, because you're so enveloped in the business sometimes you don't see it, but having these people come in and be like, you should think about this or think about it this way, just really game changing. Um, yeah, so kind of I was really curious. I was thinking about it earlier and just wanted to ask. So you've sold a bunch of these tights to young women and probably girls as well. I was just curious of the impact that these tights are making. Like, have you heard any great customer reviews? Like, how are these changing these young ice skaters' lives?
Yeah, no, this is the part that it keeps me going, honestly. It's just it's as simple as like a customer, like they bought it, I don't know, a couple months ago, and then you randomly get like a Shopify ping. I guess like some customers, like they come back to the website just to message us, and they just like they send pictures and they just send messages. It's like, yeah, here's my daughter, she got first place at this competition, yada yada, look at her, and like her tights match beautifully. And it's like literally insane. Like first the effort to reach back out to a store, but also seeing like, hey, like look at this beautiful young girl, like she looks great, she probably felt great, and like our product is willing to do that. So things like that like literally keeps my steam going.
Wow, I bet that's amazing, like full circle moment to see that something that was once an idea and then now product is like living on someone. That
Mhm.
must be amazing. Just to get that feedback must feel really good. So I would love to know, what is it like being a CEO of your own company? Like what is that like? And to add on to that, what advice would you give to maybe someone, a woman or a young person that's starting a business?
Yeah, it is weird. It is so weird. I
All right,
always
way to put it.
yeah, like because I mean, if you were to ask me like in college, like, hey, Imani, would you ever like create your own startup? I'd be like, no, like, why? Like, why would I ever? So I always reflect on that. And the reason why it's like, this position of COO, co-founder, it seems so huge, but honestly, it is so humbling. Like, because every day there's something that you don't know how to do. And now you're going to be like, okay, let me figure out how to do this with this amount of resources, this amount of people that can help me. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's super weird, but also so like going back to the story I said before, it's so rewarding at the same time. Even as little as like we just had a photo shoot this past weekend, and on the drive home, and it's like, wow, like we just did a whole 5-hour photo shoot with our products in our hand, packaging, and we had like 15 models. Like, who would have thought, So yeah, it's rewarding, but definitely super humbling. For other people out there who want to start their startup, I would just say just do it. But also make sure, well, try to find other people that want to do it with you. Um, just because I feel like my co-founding team, like, I don't even think we would be halfway where we are if it was just me alone. Like, I don't even know if we'd be here. And I just think having people to bounce off ideas, to argue with you, to laugh with you, cry with you. I just think not only does it make the experience of creating your startup even better, but I also think it promises some longevity.
Yeah, no, that's definitely everything you said is very true. It's nice to have people to bounce ideas off of. I also very curious. I know that you're in the Decide Accelerator right now. I'm curious how that's really added to your startup experience and what the benefits of that have been.
Yeah, it's been amazing, honestly. Super shout out to the Desai interns. Like, those are some smart cookies. Okay. Like, some of the things these little nuggets come up with, I'm like, oh my God. And just going back to what you said before, like just having that outside perspective, it's like a duh. Like, of course I didn't think about it. But also super amazing thing about Desai is like the mentors that they've been connecting with us with. Like, it's just like this network that I don't even know if it's SI, University of Michigan, like it is out of this world. And I don't know a lot of accelerators that have the capacity to do it. And I also really appreciative how they look for mentors that kind of match like who we are. So either in the athletic industry or like woman founded, so like we could talk like our language, so yeah, it's been a phenomenal experience so far.
That's amazing. And real quick for our listeners who don't know what an accelerator is, what is an accelerator, Imani?
um I don't know the proper definition, but it's basically like a boot camp. There you go. And so honestly, the length of time could vary, but basically you're just like in a boot camp where all these resources are thrown at you and you're just focusing on making your startup the best that it can be, while also getting some funding. So there's perks to it as well.
Okay. So with funding, can you tell us a little bit more about how you've gone about raising capital, like the different ways and how you've thought about it? I think it's a pretty big obstacle for founders, especially BIPOC founders, but it's getting better now with more resources and access to capital opening up. But how have you gone about that? Because you definitely need capital to start a business, but maybe someone's starting out and they're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know who's going to give me money. How have you gone about that? What's your journey been?
Yeah, so the way that we got started was once again from University of Maryland. We applied to a bunch of grants out of their entrepreneurship clinic. So that honestly was how we were able to afford our first sample and our first order. And then we have also been doing a bunch of pitch competitions, and some of the ones that we highlighted was like University of Maryland and then also University of Michigan. So, $15,000, we're not going to say no to that, right? And then once we've got our product, we were We've had customers, we clearly have proved that we're here to stay. We started raising a round. So we're about to close our round actually in August. But we've talked to angel investors, VCs, just to get those conversations out there. And then some things that we're looking into to do moving forward, possibly crowdfunding or yeah, that's it actually. But on like platforms like either Kickstarter or I Fund Women, right? I think that's another one. But yeah, it definitely is intimidating, right? Like it's like, hey, I have this great idea. Like, how do I have the money to do so? Also, as founders, we each did put some money into it as well, which is not something that everyone has, but it did help us have a little cushion.
Yeah, it's so true. It's figuring out your path to funding is always very unique, and there's a lot of options, as you mentioned. It definitely seems that you've had a lot of different experiences in the startup world with accelerators, as well as lots of pitch competitions. So I'd love to learn about any startup learnings that you've made along the way,
In regards to pitch competitions,
or just anything that really stuck out to you as like, okay, this is like such a personal thing that I've learned in my journey, like that you think would be helpful for the next entrepreneur.
yeah, there's so much. um, I think the bit one, like one thing that sticks out to me just off the top of my head is asking for feedback. That's something that I think just because my co-founders and I, like we were all competitive athletes. So like you grew up with someone telling you what you did wrong all the time. So naturally, like when it comes to pitch competitions or when we're in these programs or mentors, we're always asking, okay, like what did we do wrong? Like how do we can be better? Yada yada. And we've always gotten good feedback for asking for feedback. And I think it also shows like to either pitch competition judges or investors, like, hey, these women are really trying to make things for the better. And at the end of the day, I think we were able to gain more buy-in from investors or potential mentors from that way. That I also would say mistakes are okay. The things that we've done wrong, but like you learn from them. I think they're the biggest lessons. And like I know like a startup is like this fragile baby and like you move to one side and it's all over. No, that's not the case. Like yeah, things can be life threatening to your baby, but if there's a will, there's a way, and you'll find a solution for sure.
Oh, I really love that. Great pieces of advice. And I think I wish I heard that more as far as the failure piece. I studied engineering in college, and it's like you don't fail. Like that is not the goal. You succeed at all costs. But in the startup world, it's different. That it's actually it's encouraged that you fail, and not only fail but fail fast. And so I think that's a great piece of advice. Something I wish I learned earlier. So we'd love to ask this to all of our guests, wrapping up the podcast. And I've just been so enamored and floored by like everything that you shared with us today, and just the impact you're making. But for you, Imani, what is that future impact that you want to make in the future with Aurora Tights and also beyond Aurora Tights?
With Aurora Tights, I want to change everything. The world. No. I guess, yeah, no, sorry. There's like so much. I guess like this is so broad, but I want to change like what's considered normal, especially in the ice skating and dance world. Especially when it comes to the discipline that I grew up in and synchronized ice skating, like what is considered normal is fair or ideal, or the right answer is fair skin, straight hair, skinny, not too tall but not too short. And I think with Aurora Tights, with entering to this market with different shades of tights as well as dresses and all these other products we're thinking of, it's showing these skaters, these dancers that you are normal. That no matter what you look like, you're normal, but you also belong in this sport forever, no matter what you look like. So yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to change the definition of normal with Aurora Tights.
That's incredible. I think it's a very necessary thing that you're doing, and I'm really excited. I'm excited to see what you guys are going to be doing in the future, and I'm excited to work with you.
Yes, yeah, super excited.
Thank you so much for being so open and honest about everything. It's really inspiring to have seen your journey. And I think my main takeaway from everything that you've said is if you're finding that you have a problem, like you're experiencing a problem that's like very personal to you, I think you just like really are inspiring to like tackle that problem yourself. Like don't wait for someone to do it for you because it's probably not going to happen. And you can really change, as Io said earlier, change the lives of people that are following you, especially as an ice skater. So I think that's just so incredible. What about you, Io? What was your main takeaway?
So many, Megan, so many. But if I had to boil it down, well, first I want to say that I really love kind of what Megan was mentioning about your mindset around um, like creating this product, like not thinking just about yourself, but thinking about other people too. I think that's just so like honorable and commendable of you. And something that I feel like it was just shown by how you speak about your story and your product and what you guys are building is just your passion. And that's super inspiring because I can just tell this matters so much to you. And yeah, it's just really great to see. But I would say as far as specific takeaway for me, it was asking for feedback. I think it might be hard for some people. I know, at least for me, like in my journey, it wasn't the easiest asking for help because I always felt like I was I was asking people of too much if like if I asked something. But once you like realize like people actually want to help you. Now that I'm kind of more a little advanced, I'm like, no, like let me help you to my mentees. Like I enjoy it. And so I think, yeah, I love what you said about just asking for feedback, not to be shy about that. Something I'm still learning, and I think is just a really great thing to know for everyone. So thank you for sharing that. Imani, is there anything that we didn't ask you that you would love to share?
I should have prepared something. I know Sydney. She's our CMO. She's probably gonna kill me because, like, let me think. Her brain. Oh, is one thing. Yeah, so we are actually opening up our internship applications for this fall. So if anyone wants an internship, please hit us up. You could go to our website at auroratights.com. And I guess like inspirational takeaways. Yeah, just don't stop. I think I don't know. Also, just talking to two other women entrepreneurs and just consistently meeting up with other mentors who are women and entrepreneurs themselves. It's amazing, like what we're able to do when we put our minds to it. So if you're out there, just don't stop. And there is support coming your way for sure. Because as the time goes on, I feel like there's a lot more women out there who are realizing that, yeah, we can do a startup and we can kick ass at it, and who can tell us no.
Amazing. Got to inspire everyone out there to start it and get going. So thank you so much, Imani, for joining us today. It was truly wonderful to have you. And to all our listeners out there, if you have any questions about anything we talked about in this podcast, please leave them in the comments. If this really resonated with you, share it with a friend. And we're excited to have you on our next episode of the Styled by Science CEOs podcast. And that's a wrap.